it's nuts, right? So I was
Yeah.
wondering then if you could start maybe talking about what is mental health for South Asians then, considering like what you've just been through. How would your community respond to the term mental health?
Yeah, I think that's a good question because, once again, right, for generations, we've all experienced, whether we're South Asian or not, right? We've experienced the effect of not taking care of your mental health, of taking care of, in terms of parenting, right? Like friendships we make, things like that. But I think that at least now things are changing into the direction of having more very like honest and direct conversations where the words mental health are used, where that idea of, not idea, but correlation of mental and physical health being so related is now part of the discussion, as opposed to two separate things, right? Like that, or calling people crazy instead of recognizing, I think so much is changing, and that's what it's really cool to see, even on social media, like how people, even if, let's say, it's scary to access mental health, or they don't necessarily feel comfortable doing that yet. And obviously Instagram isn't a replacement, but at the same time, I do think it's so nice that maybe some of the thoughts that people have had are validated, where you feel less alone, that, wow, like I didn't know, or I didn't even know that this was something someone else dealt with. So I think a sense of community is definitely being formed, whether it's in person or virtually now, the South Asian community too, even online, because it may be hard to like ask your parents to go to therapy. But in I think for in the past, it's definitely been very much of, you can talk about, I think mental health is sort of measured by accomplishments, right? So if you're meeting these like milestones, right? Like if you're doing great in school, right? So once again, it's not like, if you're doing good in school, if, let's say, you are at the age of getting married and that's what you want to do, and like, these sort of accomplishments in terms of like, okay, you've met the markers of what the idea in our community is of what success is at that point, right? So it's got a good job, you did well in school, you got a good job, you're with a partner, or even after that, right? Then you've had a kid, all of those things. I think once again, I don't think this is representative of the truth, but I think it's very much of, oh yeah, they're doing great because they've met these milestones, right? I think it's when, let's say a kid is failing in school, let's say maybe they're isolating more, things like that. I still think, at least back in the day, it became about like, you need to work harder, right? Or you need to, but I think that's the only way. There was sort of a red flag of any sort, where it's like, oh, maybe there's something going on here. We don't fully feel equipped to deal with it. Like we don't have the language to talk about it, but I think it's measured, or at least back then it was measured by, I don't know, does that kind of make sense? Like certain accomplishments, if they're
Well, if you
met,
allow me
then,
to,
oh, they're
yeah,
fine.
if you allow me to interject a bit, yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree with what you're saying. We, and I think this is actually immigrant families, or a lot of our cultures back home is the same, right? Um, you have to have certain things by a certain age, or a certain milestones need to be reached in a reasonable time frame.
Right.
And
Right.
if they're doing that, then they're fine, like what you just said. Usually the magic number was 25. I'm so glad we're like
Mm-hmm.
past that. Like 25 is
Oh
impossible,
yeah.
right?
Right.
Imagine owning a house at 25, like unless you're a TikTok star, I'm sorry. But regardless, so you'd have to be married and have a house by 25, and you should even also have a kid. Like I'm just thinking in my mind how, and but like that's what families thought. Now if you had all of that, then you're fine. If not, it's like,
Right.
whoa, are you lazy, or what's going on? Or
Right.
if you're still, like, I see you're single, you're not in a relationship, you're not
Right.
married.
Right.
Whoa,
Exactly.
what are you doing wrong? Like why aren't
Right.
you having like, why aren't you bringing women to the family dinners or things like that? I don't know, things
Right,
like, you know what I'm
right.
trying to say? And it's just,
Totally,
imagine that
yeah.
it's like the person's gauged off of just what have they accomplished and what have they done. If they haven't done
Right,
anything, then they're ill. What if they're just working on
right,
themselves? Like
right.
that's a
Or they
terrible
don't
thing.
know. Yeah,
That
exactly.
too.
Right, right,
It's just
exactly.
it's a
If you want to hear more stories, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. To support more youth by youth led projects, visit us at youthspeak.ca, where you can donate and spread youth mental health awareness.
YouthSpeak Performance Charity. Speak, inspire, change.